Patrick Queen and DeShon Elliott reopened some Ravens controversy I thought we would never be talking about again. We talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today. We have a jam-packed episode. It's a bonus episode on the weekend. So, of course, this is our bonus content. And today we're diving into what former Ravens, now current Pittsburgh Steelers, Patrick Queen and DeShon Elliott had to say about the Ravens in general. And they reopened some very controversial Ravens controversy that, again, I never thought we'd be talking about again, but here we are. So we'll dive into all that, what Queen Elliott had to say. They talked about John Harbaugh switching from the Ravens to the Steelers. There was a lot of conversation in there. And then in the second part of the show, we've talked about the roster a ton here on Locked On Ravens. I want to go position by position and just break it down in a more detailed fashion. I know there's been all this moving and grooving about, the roster this, practice squad this, guys leaving, guys coming in. Well, I just want to take a step back here and break it all down. Then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about what constitutes a successful season for the Ravens. I know a lot of people is Super Bowl or bust, but is there a world where that is not the only situation where you can consider this a successful year for the Ravens? So I want to thank everybody for being here today with us on Locked On Ravens and making us your first listen and being an everydayer here on the Locked On Ravens podcast. And of course, we're a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network. Again, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Ravens, this bonus episode, is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. So Patrick Queen and DeShon Elliott, they went on with their now teammate Cam Hayward on his podcast called Not Just Football with Cam Hayward. If you want the full interview, it's about an hour long, and they talk a lot about a lot of different things. But the Ravens, obviously, with PQ and DeShon being former Ravens, they got into a lot of that conversation as well. And the controversy I'm talking about here, it's not like, gotcha controversy or like about a former teammate or Lamar Jackson or any of that. We'll get to John. They had stuff to say about Harbaugh, which, again, I want to talk about. But if you remember last season, PQ went to Pittsburgh, had the whole thing about being a villain and this, that, and the other, was taking shots at the Ravens and shots at even Baltimore by bringing up the food. And we now are bringing that back up. And it wasn't PQ who did it. It was DeShon Elliott. So essentially DeShon was asked about being in Baltimore, being in Pittsburgh, and the whole 9 yards there. And he said, quote, both have championship pedigrees, but here just felt like home for me. Baltimore, I really love living there, but this feels like somewhere I'm supposed to be at my life, which, it's cool. Like, he liked being in Baltimore. That's something that's great. But then he went a little further, and then he was talking about, like, there's not really much difference. And then at the end of this answer, he just goes, food's better here, I think. And you can see Patrick Queen just, like, head in his hands, shaking his head like, there's no way you just said that. Because if you remember, that was like one of the most controversial things of the offseason is like PQ taking shots at the city with the food. Like, why are we going there right now with this? And DeShon wasn't doing it in that way. But this take essentially reopened that entire conversation. It was, Arthur Millette talking about the food. Derrick Henry said that the food in Baltimore is like he had a lot of high praise for it. And so DeShon said, quote, food's better here. I think that's crazy to say. Yeah, they have the crab and whatnot over there. Hot take, the best pizza I ever had. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He said, I'm a food critic, certified. And then Cam Hayward said, PQ, do you agree with this? And PQ said, quote, PQ's not getting back into this. I don't got time. And then DeShon Elliott said, I've got time. So I don't know what this is going to take on, what life this is going to take on, if it kind of just flies under the radar or if it gets picked up like PQ. I don't think it's going to be as big as PQ because PQ, I think, was like just trying to find ways to rub it in, I think, Baltimore, because he wasn't thrilled with how everything happened with that. But he also talked a little bit about how Mike Tomlin came up to him after a game and said, you're going to be a Steeler. And then apparently when he got to Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin told him that, that was me who said that. But like to the food thing for a minute here, I just, again, it's fun to have this conversation because to me, I don't understand where the argument comes from. We talked about this last year with the PQ thing. Like, it's not just crab in Maryland. Like, yeah, crab is the big thing, but it's seafood, it's Old Bay. Like, there's just more signature food to me in Maryland than there is in Pittsburgh. Just Pittsburgh was like the Permane Bros, like the sandwiches and all that. They got the Pittsburgh salad. But like Baltimore, again, it's like you ask for Maryland crab cakes, right? Maryland crab. You don't ask for like anywhere in the US. Like, you don't say, oh, I want a Pittsburgh salad. Like that to me, it feels like that's more of a Pittsburgh thing. Baltimore, I think, has more reach with the food. So like, again, it's kind of like that fun-ish controversy of like, okay, who has the better food, Pittsburgh or Baltimore? I think a lot of people would say it's Baltimore or Maryland, but I mean, two guys who had been in Maryland, had been in Baltimore, both saying Pittsburgh. Just, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But I thought that we were kind of all done with that. It was a fun little like week or so of having that dominate the sports media world, or at least the Baltimore sports media world. But hey, you know what? Maybe it becomes a thing again. I'm not sure. But I just thought it was so funny in his answer. He said that because the best part of it was PQ just being like, please stop talking. Please stop talking. So that was the quote unquote like controversy. Again, it's not like anything football related there, but man, I guess Baltimore and Pittsburgh, the cities, have a little something going with the food battle over there. Now, I mentioned PQ and DeShon Elliott were asked about John Harbaugh. Cam Hayward asked them, playing for both guys, who do you pick, Harbaugh or Tomlin? And at first, DeShon Elliott like laughed at it, and then PQ was kind of just like, he laughed along with him, like, it's like, dude, what are you doing? But then PQ ended up picking Coach Tomlin, and DeShon Elliott clearly agreed. And PQ went into a little detail, said Coach T for sure. It's like two different people. I definitely got along with both of them, but Coach T is more like, how's your fam? Small things that are big to us. Just every single day, he's like that. It's kind of fun to be able to throw jabs back and forth. And so this is interesting to me. And again, I'm not in those locker rooms. I'm not experiencing what DeShon and PQ are experiencing in terms of these guys. But based off of everything we've heard and we've seen, like John Harbaugh very early in his tenure, and there's kind of like a history on John Harbaugh. Coming into Baltimore, he was very much a my way or the highway type of coach. And that did not sit very well with a lot of the veterans on the team because you had very outspoken, high-level personalities like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs. And, you have this young coach trying to prove himself coming into your team and essentially saying, yeah, we're not doing this your way. This is my team. And that led to multiple closed door meetings and like players not liking Harbaugh at first. But over the course of Harbaugh's tenure, he has drastically changed his style into being much more of a player's coach. And so, again, like, I'm not saying that PQ and DeShon are wrong. Like, those are their experiences and that's their opinion, and that's totally fine. I just find it interesting because, at least from what I could assume, Harbaugh has kind of gotten more into that mode of being more of a player's coach. And like, we know that Mike Tomlin is probably the player's coach of the entire NFL. So it doesn't necessarily shock me that those are the types of things that, PQ went with and have been that he wants to amplify with Tomlin and being like, this is how my experience has been. And this is why I feel the way I do. Like, Tomlin has been known to be somebody that players want to play for, that players want to go out there and fight for. DeShon Elliott talked about how he doesn't trust coaches. He's been in a lot of different spots and he doesn't trust coaches, and it's hard for him to open up to coaches, but he feels really good about opening up to Tomlin. And now that he has, like, you can tell the way that those guys talk about him. But Harbaugh, I don't think that PQ was saying like Harbaugh doesn't do any of that stuff. Like, again, with the situations that arise here, there's a lot of different stuff that Harbaugh has done that was different from what he did his first couple of years. Like, we've seen that transformation, like I said. But, I think that it's cool to see how Harbaugh has transformed. But, PQs and DeShon Elliott are not going to hop on a Steelers players podcast and say, yeah, we picked John Harbaugh over Mike Tomlin. Like, and I'm not saying they're not telling the truth, but like that was never going to happen. Right. So that's kind of the other context in this whole situation as well. PQ was also asked about the differences between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, like DeShon Elliott was. And his answer was, quote, it's different. You're somewhere for 4 years and you've got the whole culture, and then you come here for a whole year and you see the culture here. So it's two different cultures, but it's kind of similar with how you approach the games and all that. He was also asked by Cam Hayward if any of the Ravens players, his former teammates, will trash talk him. And he said Lamar jokingly will do it sometimes. He'll be like, oh, you're an op, bro, and send a bunch of laughing emojis in there. So again, PQ talking about the Ravens. Do we need to hear PQ talk about the Ravens anymore? Probably not, but it does give you other insight into it. And again, this was not like any malicious stuff here from either of them. I mean, again, the biggest controversy coming out of this is we're probably going to have to do another like whole week of Baltimore, Pittsburgh food takes, which again, I thought it was over. I thought we were done, but you know, I'll just say this right now, especially being from Baltimore, having experienced Baltimore and just like, you know, trying Baltimore food and knowing what the cuisine is, like people in Baltimore do not play about the food. All right. I just straight up Baltimore residents, people who live in Baltimore or from Baltimore, we don't play about the food. It is what it is. Like it is what it is. So I think that also is kind of where it resonated and hit home a little bit there. So I'm curious again to see how this all kind of unfolds there. But we know those rivalries are always exciting. They're always spicy, and that will probably be the case again this season, even with more Steelers added into that rivalry now. So coming up in the second part of the show, we'll be diving into a more of a Baltimore roster breakdown, going position by position, where we're feeling good about the roster, where we're not. So be sure to stay tuned. We got a lot coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Locked On Ravens fans, you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving your money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code Touchdown to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let the software drive on by. Download the free Upside app now by using my limited time promo code Touchdown for a limited time, 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code Touchdown. Again, download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code Touchdown for a limited time, 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code Touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And the show is brought to you by Gametime. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100, and the app makes everything super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying, and I love the zone deals too. You can pick the section, and Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on the Saturday edition of the show. A little bonus episode again. We're here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and we're a 5-day-a-week Ravens podcast. So Monday through Friday, we bring you that daily Ravens coverage. Plus, we do have some bonus episodes on the weekend sometimes when the headlines permit. We go live after every single Ravens game, after every single piece of Ravens big news. We also have Locked On Ravens watch along, so we react to every play of every game. That's something new we're doing this season, so be sure to check out that. We also have the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and Kadri Ismail, former Ravens receiver and Super Bowl champion. So if you want daily Ravens coverage, we have it here for you on Locked On Ravens. Let's dive into the Ravens roster a little bit more. We know the roster was finalized on Tuesday. That whole situation is done. It's over. It's completed. But, you know, everything's been moving so fast where it's okay, we go over the roster. Boom, roster looks good. Positions look good. But I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive, I guess, into each position on the roster. Not that we didn't talk about them at all throughout the week, but just going a little bit more in detail. So we'll go position by position here in the second segment. First of all, the quarterback position. This one really is not like too controversial here. We know Lamar Jackson and Cooper Rush are the two. They opt to go with Tyler Huntley over Devin Leary on the practice squad, which in my opinion was one of the most predictable moves ever. Tyler Huntley again coming back from the Browns after learning all of their secrets. So I guess you have that going for you. But again, like Lamar Jackson's the guy that makes this whole thing go. There's no controversy about that. We know that if Lamar goes down, and let's say it's for a month or two, and knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but you need a backup that can go in there and hopefully win you, if it's 2 months, anywhere from 5 to 7 games, I would say 5, 6, or 7. So when Lamar gets back in, let's say like December or something, the Ravens are still in position to win games and make the playoffs. I think Cooper can do that for you. Obviously, the first game against the Colts didn't really inspire me, but thought it was a little better the second time and even the third time around. So, Cooper Rush is not Lamar Jackson. He's nowhere close. But, I think that quarterback-wise, it's pretty straightforward. Running back, you got Derrick Henry, Keaton Mitchell, Rasheen Ali, and, of course, Justice Hill. I love this room. I do think the keeping 4 was a little too much. I understand why they did it with Rasheen Ali being a big special teams contributor and invaluable there to them. Like, I get it. But I feel like they could have kept someone somewhere else. I mean, really, Jalen Armour-Davis is probably the only other guy there that you would keep over Rasheen Ali. I mean, there were other guys that got claimed. Like, would you keep Beau Brade over him? Would you keep Ravenel over him? Beau Brade's kind of a toss-up, and, Ravenel is – I'm sure that they would have kept Ali over him. But again, like, that's not the big story here. The big story here is Henry, Hill, and Mitchell make up a heck of a trio, and – that to me is the best running back room in football, and it's not even really close. You add Ali into there as well. And I know the Ravens grouped up the running backs with Patrick Ricard in there already. Still, Ricard is the best fullback to me. Like, you have so many options there. I love it. And it gives Derrick Henry opportunities to still be the bell cow back, but also have 2 really good players behind him that can give him a break sometimes. Right? You don't want to just run Derrick Henry into the ground. Tennessee did that for multiple seasons. We know that, John Harbaugh's made it clear that he's not going to be some like 30-plus touch guy every single game, which, again, preserves him for moments that you need him. So, look, I'll take that. Really good room there. Wide receivers with Zay Flowers, Rashod Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, Tylan Wallace, Tez Walker, and LeJohntay Wester. This room is great, too. Definitely the best wide receiver room Lamar Jackson has had during his tenure. With Flowers, Bateman, and Hopkins, you have 3 really good wide receivers, Flowers and Bateman, looking to improve off of their seasons. Then obviously DeAndre Hopkins coming in, being that contested catch, chain mover veteran that is an upgrade, in my opinion, over what Nelson Aguilar brought to them even in the last 2 years. And Nelson was good as a Raven, but I just think DeAndre in a limited role gives them, a much better option there, assuming that he can stay healthy. And that's the name of the game here. But a lot of these vets, right? It's just being able to stay healthy, stay on the field. And so hopefully they will be able to do that. But then you have like the depth, Wallace, Walker, Wester. That's the big thing with the Ravens roster. It's not just the stars or the big names. It's also the depth they have behind those guys. And this wide receiver position is certainly one that like you can look at and say, oh, hey, you do have the star power, the big names, and the depth. That's pretty constant throughout the roster. So I think Lamar Jackson will have a lot of fun with this group this season. I think he'll also have a lot of fun with the tight end room this season. Obviously, it's the same as last year. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kolar. This is obviously probably the last year that it will look like this, but, no surprises. We'll have to wait and see what Isaiah Likely's status is for the first couple games of the season. Him not being placed on IR, again, is a really good sign for him being back before or on week 4. But I still don't really anticipate him playing in week 1. My projection, no medical analysis involved, but my projection is week 3 for him. I just think that makes the most sense, gives him time to rest, heal up, and not rush him back. I'm going with that for Isaiah Likely. Offensive line, you got 9 guys: Linderbaum, Cleveland, Bullock, Noteboom, Rosengarten, Vincent, Voorhees, Falele, and Stanley. This was my prediction, and this is what I thought was going to happen for them here. Not necessarily a shock or a surprise to me. The name of the game here is going to be health. The Ravens don't have as much depth as they've had in recent seasons. If Falele or someone else can't step up to the plate like a Voorhees, and I think that Voorhees will. It's more of a question of Falele. But if Falele can't, you can't just say, okay, McCary, you're going in there. Patrick McCary's gone. If a guy gets injured, knock on wood, it doesn't happen. If a guy gets injured, you can't just say, all right, Patrick McCary, go on in 1-for-1 trade. It's going to be a little harder this season. I think Corey Bullock showed a lot. I would trust him to be a replacement level player for a Linderbaum. Not as good as Linderbaum, but a replacement level player for him. maybe even at a guard spot. But, they're going to have to stay healthy and perform well. We know that Ronnie Stanley put together a healthy season last year. Can he continue that? Can Rosengarten step up in year 2 and continue his ascension? So we know, and if you've been listening to me a lot here on Locked On Ravens, you know that I think it all starts up front for both an offense and a defense. And on the offensive side of the ball, you can have all the star power you want to, Lamar, Derrick Henry, Andrews, Likely, Flowers, Bateman. If you can't block for those guys and you can't get time for those guys to go do their thing, it's not going to matter. So O-line's really important piece for them. D-line also really important. John Jenkins, Nnamdi Madubuike, Aeneas Peebles, Broderick Washington, Travis Jones. Madubuike, we know is good. Travis Jones, we know is good. I think Travis Jones is going to have, not the Madubuike breakout season, but maybe kind of close to it. I think Jones is going to be awesome. I'm keeping my eye on Aeneas Peebles this year, though. One of my draft guys, he's someone I really wanted on this team. I love his potential as a pass rusher. We saw that throughout the preseason. Keep your eye on him because I think the depth there is really good also. John Jenkins being the Michael Pierce replacement, Broderick Washington being able to cycle in as well. I think that's a really, really good group. Linebacker-wise, you got the inside linebackers, Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson, Jake Hummel, Teddy Buchanan, as well as Jay Higgins. So those 5, Higgins is probably going to be a game day inactive most weeks. But hey, you know what? He could step up on special teams when he's called upon. I just think having 4 active inside linebackers is probably where you go for most of the season, but who knows? Maybe Jay Higgins actually surpasses one of these guys and Teddy Buchanan's inactive. I don't know how it's going to work. So I'd say 4 inside linebackers are active, but all eyes are going to be on Trenton Simpson here, is presumably the starter next to Roquan Smith. Can he step up to the plate? Jake Hummel's going to be a special teams guy. So, that's kind of where you are there. And then outside linebackers, you got 5 as well with Mike Green, Kyle Van Noy, David Ajabo, Tavius Robinson, and Dafe Owe. David Ajabo definitely, I think, going to be a game day inactive here weekly, but we know the big story is Mike Green. Is he going to get snaps early on? We know that Owe's going to get him. Robinson's going to get him. Van Noy's going to get him. Where does Mike Green fit into this equation? I think you certainly have to find snaps for him. You certainly have to get there because he showed the talent that was on full display. But how many snaps does he get early? Does he kind of build himself up into a role? We will see. Defensive back wise, you got the corners, 6 of them: Nate Wiggins, Shadobia Wuzie, Jaire Alexander, TJ Tampa, Keon Martin, and Marlon Humphrey. Really straightforward here. You got Marlon as the starting slot. Keon Martin is his backup. You got 2 starting on the outside with Nate Wiggins and Jaire Alexander. Then obviously Shadobia Wuzie and TJ Tampa backing them up. I feel really good about this room. It's probably my favorite on the roster in terms of depth. We know that the Ravens have been snake bitten there in certain seasons, so the depth is very important. If one of those guys goes down, obviously it's a blow, but you feel good about the depth behind those guys to not have it ruin your season. So that room to me, it's an all-star group, 5 former first rounders in their secondary. We know that. And obviously to round it out, it's a safety group with newly extended Kyle Hamilton, Sanusi Kane, Malaki Starks, and Ruben Lowry. The depth there is going to be tested a little bit for a Hamilton and a Starks, where those are your guys. And then obviously you're going to have to rely on Lowry or Kane in the event that one of those guys can't go. But, I'm assuming that we're going to see a lot of different looks, a lot of different DB packages to where you can kind of move all those guys around on the field. So again, secondary stacked, and the specialist, Jordan Stout, Tyler Loop, Nick Moore. There's no shock there. Hopefully Loop can have a big season. Jordan Stout as well, building upon that. Nick Moore, let's get Nick Moore to the Pro Bowl. All right, let's do it. This is the year we're going to do it. Get Nick Moore to the Pro Bowl. Coming up in the final part of the show, we're going to dive into a little bit of what constitutes a successful season for the Ravens this year. So be sure to stay tuned. We got plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason's already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. For this weekend, PrizePicks is offering major max discounts. And on the NFL side of things, Dak Prescott, his max discount for that opener on September 4th against the Eagles is 0.5 passing yards. That's almost too good to be true. And I'm super pumped for the upcoming season. You got Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. This Ravens team is awesome. And for me, PrizePicks is really simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Moving right along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you. Again, appreciate everybody for being here on the weekend bonus episode. Hopefully everybody's weekend is off to a really, really good start. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member we're there for them, just like we're here for you on Locked On Ravens. If they want the daily Ravens coverage, the Ravens perspective on something, we have so much going on here. Going to be an awesome season and can't wait to kick this regular season off. It's been a long time coming. We need regular season football back here. But let's talk about what constitutes a successful season for the Ravens here. Obviously, the big thing is the Super Bowl, right? Everyone's talking about the Super Bowl. I'm talking about the Super Bowl. This, to me, is a Super Bowl or bust season with the Ravens. But I think the question everybody else is asking is, okay, is there any situation where it's a successful year without a Super Bowl win? The only other thing I can think of is the bare minimum making it. But even that would feel like a disappointment because, you look at Cincinnati, that's an example of this situation where, years ago at this point, they make the Super Bowl, they lose to the Rams, and they have not come close to getting back. Sometimes you make the Super Bowl and then you never sniff it again. Like that's something that other quarterbacks have experienced and other teams have experienced, and you don't get opportunities just thrown in your face like, hey, go to the Super Bowl. Hey, it's easy. No, it's not. It's really, really hard. And so the Ravens are in a position right now, the roster they have, the depth that they have, rosters like this don't come around often, which is why I think it kind of amplifies those expectations because we know that while, yes, Kyle Hamilton said it really well, as long as you have 8, you have a chance. As long as Lamar Jackson's there, you have opportunities to win championships. But their roster is going to look different in the next 3 years. And Eric DeCosta has essentially said, he literally said it, that they're going to have to let good players go. And that is because you can't keep everybody. It happens. It's a Ravens cycle. It continues to happen. And it's a good problem to have because it means you're drafting well, you're developing well, you're getting contributions from guys on rookie contracts. Like all of that is true. But then at the same time, it's like, well, it's tough to see those guys leave. And the Ravens get their comp picks. It's essentially, it's a cycle of things for the Ravens. But, this is the best roster Lamar Jackson has had in his 10 years as the Ravens quarterback. It's one of the best rosters the Ravens have ever fielded. I think it is the best roster that personally the Ravens have ever fielded. So if they don't win the Super Bowl this season, you're like, man, yeah, they can win it again with a quote-unquote worse roster, at least depth-wise and star power-wise. Because, again, you can't – I expect Andrews to leave. I expect Owe to leave. I expect Jaire Alexander to leave. Like, there are multiple guys that they're going to have to make tough decisions on. We don't know if Tyler Linderbaum's going to stay. Is Zay Flowers going to stay? Like, a lot of unknowns right now. Isaiah Likely, Travis Jones. We now are in a situation for the Ravens where Lamar Jackson's not getting any younger. He's not old or anything. He's going to be 29 at the end of the season here. So he's, again, not old. But you have to start to wonder a little bit, like if this doesn't result in a Super Bowl win, if this team, if this roster doesn't end up bringing it home, what do they have to do? Is it a head coaching change? Do they have to mix up the personnel again? Like, where do they turn from there? I think a serious conversation would have to be had about John Harbaugh, but I will say this. If the Ravens do make the Super Bowl but don't win it, I don't think John Harbaugh is going anywhere. That would constitute growth. Oh, the Ravens haven't made the Super Bowl yet with Lamar Jackson. Well, if you do that, that means you're kind of on the right path here. So, again, I'm not necessarily worried that Lamar hasn't won it yet. We've seen, Peyton Manning's the example everybody uses. Drew Brees is another one. Like, sometimes it just takes these all-time great quarterbacks time to do it. Situations don't work out. We get the postseason stuff. We're going to hear it a ton this season. We're already hearing it. It's already a thing. So, at this point, you just kind of you have to get the job done. The regular season is going to be fun. Doesn't mean don't enjoy the regular season, but what matters is the postseason here. You can have moral victories and wins and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, this team knows what they have to do. They have a lot of competitors. I think Lamar Jackson being the chief competitor among all of them, he wants to win so badly. So to me, it's just like, all right, get the job done, win with this roster, take advantage. And then honestly, a lot of that pressure kind of gets off of you. Like, yes, go win more after that, but it's that pressure of like, they haven't done it yet. Because we know in those moments in the postseason, they've just folded, whether it's Lamar, the coaching staff, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, like the defense. So a lot of people or units or groups have had bad games in the postseason. And you cannot continue to have that because this is a narrative the Ravens have written for themselves. So to me, I would honestly consider a Super Bowl appearance, but not a win, a bust. I know that it'd be growth, but with this roster, anything less than a Super Bowl win would be pretty disappointing, knowing, what's on the other side next season, which is still like competitive group. You can still win with that group, and the Ravens, they can draft, they can sign guys, like it is what it is. But man, rosters like this are so rare. You have to take advantage of it. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Maybe a bonus episode tomorrow, maybe not. I'm not sure what the headlines will hold for us, but if not, we'll be right back here on Monday with our regularly scheduled content. So be sure on the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form, and I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.